Because if you're at that high of a level, they expect you to be on the floor crying. But we learn to mask it so well. This is our everyday.
The Chronic Truth Podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. The views expressed by our guests are their personal opinions and do not constitute medical advice. While we share experiences and strategies related to health, neither the host nor the guest are acting as licensed medical professionals unless explicitly stated. Always consult your physician or qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your treatment plan. Listeners assume all risks associated with implementing any information discussed on this show.
Hello, and welcome to the Chronic Truth Podcast. I'm Kimberly Nash. Each week, we bring you stories from patient, expert insights, and honest conversations about chronic illness, rare disease, advocacy, healing, and life beyond the diagnosis. Here is where chronic illness meets truth, hope, and advocacy. Today, I am joined by Adison Woods, a passionate chronic illness advocate, writer, and activist who is helping change the conversation around disability and ableism. Through her Instagram community, Sick and Shining, Addison shares honest insights into life with chronic illness while encouraging others to embrace their worth, find their voice, and challenge misconceptions. She is living in Oklahoma with her husband and two beloved rescue dogs and is currently writing a book about her own chronic illness journey. Addison, welcome to the Chronic Truth. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Share a little bit about yourself with our listeners.
Yes. So I'm turning 32 this month. But to be honest, I've been sick for over 25 years. So geez. I have been doing this a long time, this journey with chronic illness. And like many people with chronic illness, there's still a lot of mystery in the journey. Like I said, it started as a child, and I remember in fourth grade, I missed 4 months of school because I was really sick post-strep, like just regular strep throat that turned into something else. And over the years, I was always a little bit different, couldn't do everything that all the other kids could do. I had a lot of migraines and nausea, a lot of mental health issues as well. And I started showing signs of POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, as a kid as well. And so in middle school, I started fainting. And it just seemed like there was always something happening, just more and more. And of course, my parents took me to many doctors, and, we would treat some symptoms, but a lot just couldn't be explained. And I went on in life. I graduated high school. I went to college, and I did very well. But I think that's because I had very understanding professors who knew I was trying really hard. Because the truth was, I was missing a lot of class because of chronic illness, especially migraines. And so then I moved on. Over the years, I've had 5 back surgeries. After I graduated college, I did start working in marketing, but over those few years, I got sicker and sicker. And then I had my last back surgery in December of 2020. And from there, everything just kind of went downhill. Oh. And if I have anyone listening who's familiar with POTS, they're saying it's because you had surgery. That can flare POTS very easily. And so we've been looking for answers. My husband and I have been looking for answers for years. And my parents have been wonderful. My mother, especially, when your child's in pain, you want to figure out what that is. So she's gone down many a rabbit trail trying to find what it could be. And about 5 years ago, she said, "I've figured it out. You have Lyme disease or a tick-borne illness of some kind." And to be honest, I kind of rolled my eyes at her because I'm like, okay, the doctors can't figure it out, but my mom, who has no medical experience, my mom figures it out. And she begs me, please just do the test. Just do the test, see what comes of it. And I'm thinking, okay, nothing is going to come of this. Well, mom's right.
Dr. Mom.
Yes, I do the testing that is considered like the gold standard for tick-borne illnesses.
And what is that test?
Yes, it's through Hygienics Lab. And it's really become it's different than what an infectious disease doctor will test you through, uh, but it's supposed to be supposedly more accurate. And so it comes back as that I've had Lyme disease as well as babesiosis. A lot of people might know what Lyme disease is, but they may not know about the co-infections. There are many other tick illnesses that a person can get along with Lyme or on their own. And so, for example, Babesia that I have is a parasite, and the illness is often compared to malaria. Yes, lots of fatigue, chest pain, flu-like symptoms. It's really quite difficult. But what was so interesting about this is most of these illnesses are primarily spread through a tick bite. And I don't know if it's like this in Colorado, probably not, but in Oklahoma and in much of the United States, excluding the Northeast, a lot of doctors don't believe you can get a tick-borne illness in these states. They think it's pretty isolated to just the Northeast. That's what I was always told.
Interesting.
So, yes. So that's what I had been told. So I was really caught off guard. But when all this came about, I did remember as a little kid, I did have a tick bite. I got one at summer camp. And I remember the counselors, they were very young and they were a little too freaked out to try to remove the tick themselves. So I had it all day. I had the worst migraine. That's the first migraine I ever remember having. And I was crying. I was miserable until I got home and my grandmother removed it. But because of how long ago it was, no one was talking about Lyme disease or tick illnesses in Oklahoma. So we didn't think much of it. We didn't think, oh, we need to go get her tested. But that is where the health issues, both mental and physical, really started for me. So then it became, what can we do to treat this? And because it is so controversial outside of the Northeast, I was even warned that a lot of doctors wouldn't do anything in Oklahoma. So I went to an infectious disease doctor with my husband, and I am holding my positive labs that say, yes, you have this. And I'm saying, okay, can you help me with this? And this infectious disease doctor says, you don't have Lyme or tick-borne illnesses. And I say, I have labs.
Then what is this?
Right here, see? And she says, it's not possible because you've never been to the Northeast. And because she did ask me that, and I have never traveled to the Northeast. And I said, okay, but I have a test right here. Well, I don't like that test. Okay, let's do your test. Let's see what yours says. No, you don't have it. I'm not treating you for this. You don't have it. You don't need to come back and see me. It was easily the most frustrating conversation I have ever had with a medical professional. So I had to pursue Lyme specialists and more functional medicine, but they did start me on high doses of antibiotics, traveled out of state for these doctors. And that is the first line is antibiotics. And the good thing is, if you get a tick bite and you notice it within a couple of days and you go get tested, you are more than likely going to make a full recovery after just a few days of antibiotics. However, to the best of our abilities, we've determined that I was bitten by a tick 25 years ago. So that's considered late stage Lyme and tick illness. And at
So
that
all
point,
your childhood, you've been having these symptoms, all going back to this tick bite.
yes. And we didn't know. It took a very long time for us to figure that out. And so I was treated with antibiotics, but when it's late stage like this, it can be hit and miss on if the antibiotics are really going to make a difference. There's a lot of lifestyle changes too that can help. Eating well. Every doctor I saw recommended numerous supplements. The recovery is rough because on antibiotics, you do what's called herxing, and that's when the infection is dying off. It kind of comes back at you really hard and you get very sicker for a little while. But the ultimate hope is that then you'll be in remission and you'll feel great. And that's what most people do. And I did that. Unfortunately, I still have the symptoms. I couldn't continue the antibiotic treatment very long because that high level of antibiotics for so long is very damaging to your organs. My liver started having issues. So I discontinued the antibiotics, and now currently I'm just trying to make lifestyle changes. But I do hit periods of remission where it's a little bit better, but then it can come back later. So that's kind of how life goes for me. I am mostly homebound, not able to work anymore. And a lot of my illnesses that I have, aside from the tick-borne illnesses, we actually have found that often go together. So it could be that the tick illnesses caused the POTS, caused the interstitial cystitis, which is painful bladder syndrome. I have numerous, but that's really what's affecting me day to day. Really bad fatigue and anxiety and mental health issues and terrible migraines. But I've also had a lot of hope along the way. Even though I don't feel well, I now don't take a single moment for granted when I feel a little better. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I'm thankful for that. And that would never occur to me if I hadn't become sick. No one wants to be sick.
No.
But I am very thankful for the life lessons I've learned along the way.
What a beautiful story, and all from a tick bite. I know Lyme disease is pretty common in Colorado as well, especially in the mountains, etc. And
Yes.
I feel this is an important topic, coming into prime season for tick bites. You don't generally get them in the winter, of course,
Right.
but this is good information. People are out camping, hiking, riding bikes here in Colorado. Any like Oklahoma, you can get it anywhere. It doesn't have to be, like you said, in the mountainous areas.
Yes.
And how sad that they would tell you that, oh, well, you didn't travel to the Northeast. You didn't have it. That's frightening for a patient.
And I remember after the end of that appointment, I just looked at my husband and said, I wish I would have lied and said, yeah, I've been to the Northeast. And how terrible is that to wish you would have lied to your physician? But we felt very helpless at that time. But you are right. It's a great time to be reminded of this. No one should live in fear, but take the precautions. If you've been outside, especially in tall grass, check yourselves, check your kids and your dogs. Your dogs can get it as well. So just be aware for sure.
What is a good removal? If you find a tick on your body, what is a good removal? I know they say don't pull it because the head could break off, etc.
Yes, you don't want to pull from the head. To be honest, since mine was so long ago, I was trying to remember how my grandmother removed it. And I believe she used tweezers. And that's what I've seen people use since then.
Just kind of pinch it, make it
Yes,
uncomfortable.
just kind of
to
pinch
back
it
out.
off. Yes. And a lot of people who end up with this don't even remember a tick bite because these ticks are tiny. They're often from deer ticks, and they can be just tiny, tiny, tiny. And a lot of people also will think, oh, well, if it's Lyme disease, you'll have the bullseye rash. That's a classic symptom. But not everybody gets a bullseye rash. My tick was on my head, so it could have been on my head. But from what we could see, there was no bullseye rash.
And this is good information for parents with young children.
Yes.
Looking at child's hair. If you guys are out and about, just kind of skim through and take a look. Also on your pets as well.
Yes.
You openly share your chronic illness journey through Sick and Shining. What inspired you to start speaking out this way?
Well, to be honest, I was in a really hopeless place back a few years ago when I started it. I felt like there wasn't much purpose in my life because I'm someone who was so satisfied going to work every day and not having that anymore. I started to question who I was. But for me, I am a spiritual person. And during this time, I really feel that I saw God's goodness more than ever, and I felt God's presence more than ever. And I just felt like there's a purpose to this pain. And it's okay to admit that it's terrible and it's hard, but there are also beautiful moments. And there are probably other people out there who are going through this. And so I got on Instagram and I was like, what do you even search? Chronic illness? What do you, and people come up and it's a whole community. So I started mine and my focus is really to welcome the honesty of it. A lot of people will tell you just think positively. And I'm not saying that's terrible, but I am a little suspicious of anyone who can't admit when something is hard. So I really try to encourage people to admit the hard, but also look for the good in their day as well, because the chances are there's something. But if you need to just let it out, I think that is healthy. That is how we grieve. We're grieving, our lost selves and dreams. And it's just been a beautiful, beautiful community.
What a parallel we have as far as our mindset. I truly, for myself, I believe we have to grieve once we're diagnosed, we have to grieve our old selves and learn
Yes,
to appreciate and love your new limits. And
exactly.
sometimes those limits can be a blessing.
Hmm.
And I know people are looking at me going, "Oh, she's pie in the sky type lady." And I'm like, "No, I've hit rock bottom and I've been
Yes,
depressed and it's okay, but just don't stay there."
absolutely. Yes. Even something as simple as just I have two dogs that I adore and getting to pet them and interact with them, that brings me joy. I can still do these little things that make life beautiful. It Chronic illness doesn't have to be the end. Life is going to go on and it's going to be hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It's very hard, but keep going because there is a purpose and you're going to find some beauty in it.
Can you explain what it looks like in everyday life for someone living with chronic illness or an invisible disability? What do you wish more people knew or could see?
Yes. So if you see us, that means we are probably at our baseline. We're not pain free, we're not fatigue free, but we're at our baseline and it means it's important that we are there. So remember that. But when you don't see us, what that can often mean is we are stuck in bed. We have fatigue that is so beyond tiredness. It is debilitating. And not every person with chronic illness has pain, but for me and for many of us, we do. And the pain is always there. I don't have a pain-free moment, which can be hard for people to process because that sounds very negative. But on an average day, I have a terrible migraine. I'm sensitive to sound and light, and I'm really just laying around with my dogs because, like I said, I'm not able to work anymore. And I applaud those with chronic illness who do work because that is quite the challenge. We never know what to expect. We can't plan well because sure, let's say we make plans for next week, day of, who knows how we're going to be feeling. We feel flaky because we often have to cancel last minute, and a lot of people can get frustrated with that if they don't understand. But it's not being flaky, it is our bodies, what they're demanding. We require a lot more rest than the average person, and I think that people often drop off in checking in on someone with chronic illness because exactly, it's chronic. It's going on forever. it's not going to stop. And people don't really know how to respond to that. So I think the best thing that someone who is not chronically ill but is friends with someone would be to check in, say, hey, is there anything I can do to make your life easier today? Even just to how are you doing today? Be real with me. That means a lot.
I
You
like that. Be
definitely,
real.
yes, it's very important. That's where the true friendships lie. And like anyone else, I kind of lost friends when I got really sick, but I also made new friends, and even online, that's
Yes.
been a big way to do it. Is making friends online, and that makes all the difference because a lot of the time they know exactly what you're going through.
Yes, and you built this wonderful community of support for someone like you who understands and gets you. And I find that many of us with chronic illness, no matter what we're fighting, we tend to draw to each other,
Mm,
not to do a woe's me, but
right.
as a I get you.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that it's just something that you don't get used to it. No one can really get used to being this way all of the time, but you do learn how to have a life, even if you're not able to leave your home. If you just really sit and think on what this is meaning for you and your life and the people in your life, there's a lot of good that can come from it. And with the tick illnesses, a lot of they're controversial. A lot of professionals will say, well, once you do antibiotics, you're better. That's not the case. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of movement in the last 2 years. The CDC finally did say, yes, there are symptoms that can persist after someone is treated. So there is a lot more awareness coming around it. And I've noticed that with a lot of illnesses. POTS has gotten a lot more awareness since people with long COVID have been developing POTS. So the conversations are happening and we are seeing a lot of change. And that is something to be excited about.
That is something to celebrate, especially those of us in this chronic illness community. I just yesterday had to go and have Botox injections because I have dystonia. I'm in the process of the MS diagnosis and my body's locking up. So I get in my nerves in my hands and feet, I get Botox injections.
Yes.
And I remember going in because I knew your story was coming on today. And so I'm sitting there, thinking about our interview today. And then, the nurse comes in and or the aide comes in and she's asking, okay, what's your pain scale today? And that is to me the most, I don't know, as a chronic ill patient, how do what do I say on a 1 to
Yes.
10? I'm a 10, but
Right.
I'm walking around and I'm smiling, and
Yes.
that's just, I wish we could change that, but I get what they're trying to do, but that I just wanted to laugh and I wanted to share that with you today and see if you
Oh,
feel the same.
absolutely. Because if you're at that high of a level, they expect you to be on the floor crying. But we learn to mask it so well. This is our everyday. So I've run into that quite a few times.
And how sad. So we all get it. You're
Yes.
currently writing a book about your chronic illness journey.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that and when we can expect to see it on the shelves.
Yes, I am writing a book, and it's my first time to ever write a book. I was very optimistic and thought I would get it done in 2025. That was cute. When you're chronically ill, it can be really hard to write or use a computer. So I would say I'm about halfway done right now. And it's actually like a collection of essays about different experiences in my life. I talk about all of my physical illnesses, which we just barely got into. I've got so many, but I didn't want this to be an audiobook today. It's a podcast. So I talk a lot about that, but I also have very real and very challenging mental health issues that are very important to me to talk about as well. So there's a lot of humor in the book. I'm someone who has a little bit of snark, so I include that in in my writing voice. And because this is my first time writing and I am chronically ill, I don't know exactly when it will be completed, but I'm determined to get there.
I'm proud of you. I've always wanted to do it too, but
Thank
I've never
you.
had the courage to. So I do podcasts and stuff instead.
And that I could never do. That's amazing to me. I just happen to love to write. That's always been a passion of mine.
That's beautiful. Where can our listeners get in touch with you?
Yes. So my Instagram is Sick and Shining, all spelled out. That's the primary way. I am working on getting a Facebook page set up to mirror that, but it's not happened yet.
As a takeaway today, what advice would you give someone who feels like chronic illness has taken away their identity and their hope?
I just relate to that so much. I think you have to dig down and remember who you are and what you have to offer. Maybe you are known for being unbelievably kind to people or really funny or any number of things. You have to remember that you still have something to offer. Just because I'm not out in the world every day, I do still communicate online. And there is a purpose for everyone. And I think it's just really sitting there and sitting with who you are beneath your accomplishments because they're not everything.
I love that. Thank you so much, Addison, for coming on and sharing this very personal chronic health journey. It has truly been a pleasure meeting you. I was so excited about this, and so it's an honor to meet you and introduce you to my listeners. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
And for my listeners, thank you for joining us for another episode of The Chronic Truth. Leave us your comments, and if this conversation resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and please share this episode with someone who may need to hear it. And remember, your voice matters, your story matters, and you are never alone on this journey. Until next week, not without a fight.